Hey, what's up guys? I'm KBHD here. Welcome back to Dope Tech. I'm your host, Marquez Brownlee. Dope Tech videos used to have a theme. Yes. Does this video have any sort of theme at all? Absolutely not. This is three completely unrelated items. They have nothing to do with each other. And I'm gonna take that as a sort of a challenge to make the best segues between each of them. Like a Linus-inspired game of high-tech chain reaction. So, let's begin. Okay, so I tweeted a picture of these not too long ago, and a lot of you had questions, understandably. What is going on with these hilariously huge AirPods? So, these are the 3X pods. And I don't know why they call them 3X, because they're clearly a lot bigger than 3 times the size of AirPods, but they are Bluetooth speakers modeled after AirPods Pro. They are the size of a camera and a lens, maybe, or like a really big coffee mug. The point is, they're hilariously big, and weirdly enough, even though they definitely don't go in your ears, even if you are Shaq's size, they still have rubber tips, so that if you wanted to put them in an elephant's ears or something, they would have a somewhat comfortable fit, I guess. So, a couple things you may be wondering about them. One, yes, there is a black and a white version. They do pair quickly and easily via Bluetooth, and on that stem you can see there's a couple controls, a power switch, some playback controls, a microphone, and sadly a micro USB charging port. And you can also play music from these from built-in FM radio, a USB flash drive, or a TF card. Yeah, I had to look that up too. It's called a trans flash card, which is basically the same thing as micro SD. And they sound like, you're not buying these for how they sound. Come on. These, if you are wondering, they sound pretty bad actually. They have very, very little bass. They don't get very loud. Maybe they are kind of sounding like giant AirPods. There are other speakers of this size that cost around the same amount that get twice as loud and sound much better. You're not getting these for the sound. But really, this is much more about the novelty factor. I mean, look at them. How is this not an amazing conversation starter? Just sitting on a shelf in your living room, you pick these up, they're super lightweight, and then just the fact that they actually function as speakers and all the sound comes from where you'd expect them to is pretty sweet. Now I just want you to know, before you go out and buy these, they are $40 right now on their site. So I guess I should expect this, but they are super cheaply built and you can feel it immediately. You can tell. It says on their site that they are 3D printed, but I don't really know if I believe that. There are seams all over the thing. There are screws. The grills that match the metal on the AirPods are just stickers. But even if they are 3D printed, it doesn't seem to help the actual build quality. So don't buy these for the build quality. Don't buy these for the sound quality. Buy these for the immense flex that not only do you have AirPods Pro, but now you also have the gigantic 50 times size AirPods Pros that actually function, which is wild, although minus the noise cancellation. Actually, what's funny is when they ship these, you get a black and a white, but they're both left AirPods. But what they should have done, what they should do is give you one right, one left, and then have them pair up in stereo mode and let you really get into it. But maybe they'll save that for the 2nd gen version. Speaking of the 2nd gen version, this is the 2nd gen Asus Zephyrus Duo. Okay, so you might remember we already had a dual screen Asus laptop in a Dope Tech video less than a year ago. That was the 1st gen one. And I think we can agree the main complaint about that first version was that screen up against the keyboard was kind of hard to see. It was a little off axis, and that's hard for any display. And then light would reflect off of it, and you know, it was a matte finish and everything, but that was the problem with it. So boom, problem solved. So this is basically a sequel, and you can see they've built this actually pretty simple hinge that every time you open the laptop, the second screen also rises up out of the laptop and tilts towards you a bit for improved visibility. And it works. And it's a sturdy hinge too, so since it's still a 4K touchscreen, still has a matte finish, it just is that much more likely that you'll actually use it now that you can actually see it more and you don't have to strain your neck to look down at that screen. So it's smart design, and it also has now this bonus of a little bit of air can flow through the back there for cooling, which is nice. And there's also the speakers down there. And then, yeah, all the same stuff that I said about that first one, about how awesome it is to have a dual screen computer, that of course applies to this one again too. It's like the touch bar on steroids, all the multitasking capabilities. But also, keep in mind, there are still all the weird quirks that come from this unconventional form factor too. Like the fact that there's no palm rest built into the laptop from the keyboard being pushed so far down, like the tiny mouse pad, if you actually use it without a mouse. The power plug is also kind of in a weird place in the middle of the left-hand side, which I thought was curious. And the battery life also still takes a hit, since obviously you're powering 2 4K screens now instead of 1. It is a 90 watt-hour battery, but you'll notice the battery depleting much more quickly if you have brightness up on both screens like I usually do. But hey, I'm happy to see Asus really doubling down on this concept that was already pretty sweet in the first version and really working to improve it. And this new laptop also has great specs. It's an unlocked 8-core CPU. It has an RTX 2080 Super Max Q, 32 gigs of RAM, solid state storage. It's definitely a capable machine, and they're not shy about what it is capable of, but I think the coolest part is that Asus is listening and is making stuff like this. And I think possibly the most telling part about how they expect you to use this laptop is in the ports layout. So like I said, power plug is on the left-hand side. That's along with the mic and headphone jacks. 2 full-size USB and 1 USB Type-C on the right-hand side. And then in the middle of the back, there's USB, Ethernet, and HDMI, which is pretty perfect if you're gonna use it as a desktop replacement. That's the type of stuff you'd run down the back of your desk while attaching the whole thing to a monitor, which, boom, brings us to our third and final item. That was smooth. This is the Samsung Odyssey G9 49-inch ultra-wide gaming monitor. This thing is ridiculous in so many ways. So everything about this monitor is to the limits, okay? First of all, it comes in this box, this insane box, and then it's a 49-inch diagonal monitor, so biggest monitor I've ever used, and then it's at a 5120 by 1440 resolution, so 5K wide, which doesn't make it the first monitor of that resolution, but I do believe this is the first one we've seen at a 240 hertz refresh rate with HDR 1000 certification, thanks to QLED. So it gets crazy bright if you need it to. It has a 1 millisecond response time. It supports NVIDIA G-Sync over DisplayPort 1.4, and it's curved, massively curved. So curved monitors, there's different levels of the amount of curve you can have. This monitor is what's called a 1000 radius curve, which just means basically if you put these monitors into a circle till they all connected, the radius of that circle would be 1000 centimeters, which without any context doesn't really mean anything. But what they're trying to tell you with that number is it is very, very curved around that center point, and so it sticks out a lot from the base as a result. Apparently the curve matches the human eye. The bottom line is the experience you get sitting in front of this thing, right in the middle, right up close, using it, and especially gaming on it, is one of maximum immersion. I've never had a monitor get into my peripheral so much. And then it checks most of the rest of the other boxes from a high-end monitor. There's 2 DisplayPort, 1 HDMI, and a USB hub and audio jack around the back there. DisplayPort is definitely the best way to get the most out of this monitor. I also kind of wish there was USB Type-C, Samsung, as long as we're trying to check all the boxes, but it doesn't have that. And then also around the glossy white back, you can turn on the RGB lights in the middle, and this thing glows. It's pretty sick. It's kind of like this infinity void, even though you never have to really look at the back of your monitor. At least you know it's there, and hey, maybe you get a little spillover onto the wall behind it. But what's actually nice about this back, besides the cable management, is this headphone holder. Because even though it is kind of hard to reach behind a huge monitor like this, it's nice that they thought about that and put something back there, because when you have this monitor on your desk, it's really hard to have anything else on your desk. So that is the price you pay for this huge, vast expanse of a screen. But hey, a lot of people looking at this right now are thinking, you know what? That's worth it. I want this. So if you are one of those people who literally wants to buy this, along with anything else mentioned in this dope tech, below the like button, I'll leave all the links to everything. This you'll find is $1,700, which is definitely expensive for a monitor. Costs more than the equivalent of like buying 2 separate 27-inch 240 hertz monitors. But I mean, the badass factor of having it all in one unit, the lack of a bezel in the middle, the HDR certification, the QLED, the image, the curve, it's kind of hard to match this. Now for me personally, like I've gamed on this a bit. I've never been a huge ultra-wide person. I need the vertical pixels when most of the work I'm doing requires vertical scrolling. So ultra-wides are ultra-wide. They've never really been very tall. So 1440p, not enough pixels vertically for me. But for gaming, I mean, this thing is incredible, and that's why it's dope tech. So that is the Samsung Odyssey G9. This has been Dope Tech. I hope the segues were up to par for at least what I set the expectations to be at the beginning of this video. Thanks for watching. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace.